I got everything on my list. It's just
being really weird.
I thought you were squatting.
it's just not happening?
It
Okay.
might be now.
Okay,
I just tried something.
okay.
Let's see. Yep, now it's working. Okay.
Okay, Michael, so we're gonna be in,
Just between the breaks though, your live stream is still going. So audio, video right now is still going to be.
I'm glad I looked up, because all my paperwork was on notes and
The
everything.
camera looks slow. Interesting though. You're a little cut out here.
Well, it's just because I was leaning back to give you some room.
Okay.
When I'm
When
screwed
you're
up.
normally there,
Yeah.
are you good? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Where's that stream on?
It's streaming on Facebook and YouTube right now.
What is it?
Can't believe I left all my notes.
We are good now. Cool. How much time do you have?
2 minutes. Okay, so we're going to go into this news item, and then constitutional bail exception, and we're going to do H there, judicial discipline. So one of the conspiracy theories, I'll bring it up, is this thing. Are you for the constitutional bail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Exemption.
Yeah.
What the fear that this would then allow judges to basically put someone in jail forever without bail, like without due process and
that's
things
not
like
true.
that.
No, this just fixes the law from when the death penalty was abolished, which was in 2020.
Okay.
So back then, if you established a certain precedent of evidence, the judge could hold somebody without bond pending trial. That's all this is.
Okay.
And it's only for first-degree murder cases. by the way.
No, I understand, but what with the judicial getting weaponized, thought is now a judge somebody could, you got a hit piece on you. Someone could accuse you of murder. The judge
Yeah, you gotta have
locks you
evidence of a
up.
murder. Right,
Okay.
I mean, just an accusation of murder is not the same thing as evidence of a murder.
Okay.
Right.
But what if a judge, do you think a judge could abuse this?
Well,
Okay.
the first step is the prosecutor, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
no,
Well, I'll
I
bring
can't, I can't see that being
Okay.
an abuse.
Okay, well, I'm gonna bring it up, because
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff we talk about on, those Trojan horse
Those are
things and the
conspiracy
ballot
theories
issues.
that have no basis in
Okay,
fact,
okay.
in my mind.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and you're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, and of course, it's election time, and we have as our guest for the whole hour our local district attorney, Michael Allen, who is also candidate Michael Allen, running for his second term. Michael, thanks again for being on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, Dirty Laundry, this is our headline segment, and it's great. It's when this happens, we get a headline. I look for headlines, and the guy I have on the show is here. This is right on the Gazette. 4th Judicial District Attorney, that's Michael Allen, requests $50,000 salary increase ahead of the election. I'm thinking, who would do that? Like, first of all, not a good election stumping thing. So of course, when Michael came in, I said, Michael, you're the news here. And he said, oh, that's a hit piece. So what's going on with this, Michael?
Well, what's important to know is that every year we have meetings with the county commissioners and we go through our budget. And that's really what this should be talking about. Is I gave a presentation to the county commissioners just yesterday talking about the critical needs of the DA's office. I'm asking for a new chief deputy DA, which is a high-level DA, that's a supervisory position, a paralegal for county court, an operating budget increase of $100,000. If people go watch my budget presentation yesterday, they will not hear me ever ask for
And it's all public, and it was all done out in public.
You can watch it.
Right.
It's on the county website. You can watch it. So in that budget presentation, we're going through crime stats and everything else, and then instead of covering any of that important stuff that the community should care about, crime is up despite what the governor's office is saying, that kind of stuff. They talk about a salary increase that they say I requested, which I never did. There have been discussions between my office and the county commissioners as it relates to DA's salary, but that's not respective to Michael Allen DA. That's for the seat of DA. So whether I win this election or don't win this election, they still have to set the salary for the next 4 years. So that's really what that's all about.
And this is the county commissioners setting the budget.
Right, that's exactly right.
Okay, so there was some, it seems, and it's not here at all in this article. It says that you asked for $150,000 operational expense increase.
It's
but-
$100,000, not $150,000.
Okay, so they got a lot wrong in this article. It
Shocker.
seems.
What does Trump say about the news media sometimes?
Well, I mean, so you think it's a hit piece? You think?
Well, it's just not
someone's gonna have
accurate. It's just not
Okay.
accurate. When they put a title on that you then get on the radio and read, that's not accurate.
to? Right.
That-
Well, because
you
people
can make
mostly read the headlines.
You
right?
can make the conclusion whether it's a hit piece or not. I can tell you it's just not accurate.
Right, okay, I mean, it's just because I thought, who would do that
Yeah.
right during the election? That doesn't
Well-
make sense strategically anyway, but you're saying, it seems, and you showed me other documentation before we came on, that there was this talk of $50,000,
Right.
but it wasn't from you.
Right.
And then it was extrapolated into you asking.
Exactly.
And that's what you.
That's
believe
the
happened.
kind way of putting it, yeah.
But why they did this, so, you contacted the Gazette to try to
Of
get
course,
this
we'll be in
corrected?
contact with the Gazette.
Okay,
Yeah.
as of this morning, okay. So, folks, always look into things, and I love my position because I actually get to talk to the people
Yeah.
and go, what's up with that, the people that are in the news, okay?
Yeah, but again, I think it's important to know, this happens every year. Every year we're doing budget for the DA's
Right.
office, for the other elected county offices. It just so happens that this year, I'm up for re-election, so of course the Gazette wants to publicize some controversy because it's election season. That makes perfect sense.
Okay. Okay, let's get on to things that are in the news because they're ballot initiatives. Again, there are 14 ballot initiatives, right? 14? Is that it?
That's
Yeah.
a bunch.
Yeah, 14, and I've been reporting on them for weeks.
Yeah.
I believe it's 14 in Colorado, and then there's 3 in Colorado Springs specifically, and of course there's municipal ones and things like that.
Right.
But I wanted to ask Michael today his take on this, because everybody that's been coming on, I've been asking their take, because everybody's like, how do you read these things, right? There's like, some have quadruple negatives. Like,
Right.
what do they all mean? So we're going to be covering the ones that are very specifically related to the judicial here. And so we're starting with Amendment I. This is a constitutional amendment. It would require 55% of the vote statewide. It's constitutional bail exception for first-degree murder. And this would then allow bail to be denied for someone who is suspected and there's evidence presented of first-degree murder. As a lawyer, as our DA, can you explain this to us in a clear way so people can
Yeah.
make the decision that fits their values?
Absolutely. So I don't know whether you're asking me to give recommendations on these, but I can certainly describe them for you.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to know what you think,
Yeah.
but overall, we tell people, research for yourself. So somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah. So one thing that's important to note is that all of the ones that I'm concerned with delve into public safety. So when we talk about Amendment I, Amendment H, Prop 128, these are all public safety initiatives, right? Amendment I is a ballot initiative that will allow us to hold first-degree murder defendants without bail pending trial. It requires a showing of strong evidence, so proof evident, presumption great evidence, so that's more than probable cause that this person is the right defendant, and that it's very likely that if this goes to trial, the jury will convict them. If we establish that burden of proof, then the judge can then hold the person without bail pending trial. So we're talking about the worst of the worst here. Club Q shooter, that kind of case, Aurora Theater, King Soopers up in Boulder, those types of people should be held without bail. It would be a public safety disaster to allow them to bond out of jail pending trial because they're just that dangerous. So that's what we're talking about here.
So, and we've talked about this with other guests on the program, that with the weaponization of the judicial that we've seen even, on the levels of the FBI and things like that, that this seems to put a lot of power in the hands of the judges, that if there was a judge that didn't like, I don't know, say a presidential candidate, so there could be some way of accusing of murder and then holding without, due process, without being able
Sure.
to get out. What do you say about that?
I
Is
say-
is that possible?
There's not a way in my mind that I can fathom that would be the case under this law, or in the state of Colorado, frankly. To get to the idea that you could frame somebody for murder in Colorado in today's scientifically based criminal justice system just is preposterous. That's not a fear that should be a realistic fear, or even a reasonable fear. You still have to put on evidence that somebody died. You've got to have a body, or evidence that somebody was killed. You've got to have evidence of weapons being hidden or bodies being disposed of or something like that. This is not just fly by night, hey, let's patch something together with some duct tape and call it a murder, right? This is actual evidence.
Okay, so I should take my tinfoil hat off on this one?
You should definitely take your tinfoil
Okay,
hat off on
I
that one.
like it. It fits me well sometimes. Okay.
It's getting a little dingy though.
I don't use it that much. Thanks a lot. Okay, Amendment H. This is one that I think people read and they fall asleep
Yeah,
to this.
they should.
But maybe, well, I was hoping that you as a lawyer could put a little energy into this. Amendment H, judicial discipline procedures and confidentiality. Shall there be an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning judicial discipline and in connection therewith establishing an independent judicial discipline adjudicative board, setting standards for judicial review of a discipline case, and clarifying when discipline proceedings become public? What does that mean? We have about a minute.
Yeah, so unlike which Amendment I, I'm giving a strong recommendation, vote yes on that one. Amendment H, basically our judicial discipline system in the state of Colorado is one of the most, if not the most secretive judicial discipline systems in the entire country. This would make it less secretive to a degree. It's still not great, I don't love it, but it's a step in the right direction. So reluctantly, I'm on the positive side of this one, even though it's not perfect, but it's better than what we have now by a pretty good margin.
Well, what is it saying? Well, what will it add?
It just adds more transparency to the way that judges are disciplined in the state of Colorado. Right now, it's impossible to get that information.
Okay. I mean, isn't there a law that these things are supposed to be written as simply as possible? Don't we have a law in the books here in Colorado that all
Yeah.
these things?
Yeah.
And yet we need a blue book
Right.
to explain the thing that's supposed to be written
Right,
simply.
right.
Because honestly, not being a lawyer, I don't even know what I just read.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Amendment H is
My mother wanted me to be a
Slight
lawyer,
positive
but
on
I
this one.
ran from that. Okay. I'm Goldman the Watchman. You're listening to the Peak News on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, it's election season, and we have District Attorney Michael Allen with us. When we come back, Michael's going to be addressing juvenile crime in Colorado. Stick around. We'll be right back, saying the quiet stuff out loud. Cool. Okay, so
Do you know that we have the one of the easiest state constitutions to amend in the whole country too? And that it is one of the longest constitutions in the whole country because of that.
okay.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Because we keep adding to
We
it?
keep that like.
So because at 55% level
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
most,
yeah,
well, that's easy.
yeah. I mean, that's how
I
we
know
get
Florida
marijuana.
has 60.
That's how we get marijuana in our
Okay.
constitution,
Okay.
right?
So, so you have bullet points? You have bullet points for this juvenile?
Mhm.
Okay, so I will give you, you'll have about 4
I've got a
minutes.
narrative, not bullet points.
Okay. Something in front of you. So you can look down and make sure you
Yeah.
make your point. So you'll have about 4 minutes, so I'll give you time cues.
Okay.
Of 3, 2, 1, and then this is 30 seconds. So it gives you time to, put the last chapter on it.
That's not a gang sign.
Well, no,
You're not flashing
a gang
gang signs at me?
No, I'm not. So, yeah. So, and if you ever hear music, that means I'm 30 seconds out, so I gotta get it back.
Yeah.
And this means wrap it up,
Okay.
just to remind you
Yep.
of that stuff, so we can do that. But we're clicking along, this is good. But this one, I'm just gonna unless I hear you say something that I want clarity,
Yeah,
like
you
he's
should,
afraid
you should
that.
actually,
No,
just to
I-
keep me on pace though.
Well, no, the time cues will. I prefer to let this be not,
How much time do I have for this one again?
it's gonna be about 4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay.
And you'll, as you go and you see the time cues, you'll start to see the,
Yeah.
what you got.
Yep.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I'll only break in for a point of clarity if you
Mm-hmm.
if you use, a phrase that I don't understand, and I know the public probably or whatever. But otherwise, I'll stay. Don't expect me to break in. I'll just let you go. And cool.
I'm always surprised how fast these hours go.
They do, especially the way I do it. It's it's these little chunked things to keep it fast paced. Like people that you take calls of, like if I had a second hour, I would take calls. But by the way, we're streaming. So
You should take calls. I'll call in and
yeah, thanks.
turn the screws on you a little bit.
Crinkle my
Yeah.
my Reynolds wrap, Mike Jones out there says that I should get them as a sponsor. I get the when I only make my tinfoil hats from pure Reynolds. Well, by the way, as we know, a lot of these conspiracy theories have been coming true through the years. A lot of it. There's
This just resets the law to what it was before, though. Is really what this is all about.
I mean, what I was saying is, we don't have a death penalty. What we want, what we want.
Yeah, but do you think Club Q shooter
we're
should
back
get out
in
on
10,
bond?
yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the
I
question.
believe death penalty. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The answer: no, we won't lie to you. If we were going to do that, we'd just be the regular mainstream media. We wouldn't have needed to bother doing this. I honestly wish we didn't have to do this, but it seems like we, the people, need to take back everything. But that's our fault, because we were supposed to be running all these things, and we've abdicated everything to other people. And guess what happens when everyone abdicates it to someone else? There is no someone else. There's no one there. We don't even know who's running the country at this point. Someone is. We just don't happen to know who it is. But we have.
know who it is.
Well, you'll have to clue me in at the commercial. If you stick it on the
it's
left
not the
here.
elected president.
No. It's some kind of big power in high places. But we have Michael Allen, who's our local district attorney and also candidate running for re-election. So if you're in Judicial District 4, you open your ballot, you'll see him there. And in this section, I always like to turn it over to our guest for sort of a monologue and op-ed piece. And Michael said he wants to talk about juvenile crime in Colorado. Michael.
Well, thank you, Chaim. Again, thanks for having me on. And this is an important topic that's been hitting our area particularly hard, but also just the entire state of Colorado. People don't know that bed space for juvenile detention, so this is when kids are arrested on crimes and then they're held pending trial. In 2019, so before COVID, we had 380 total beds for the entire state, and then they're divided out into regions. So the Pikes Peak region gets a certain allocation of that 380. Then COVID happens and people are pushed out of custody status. That happened in DOC, it happened in the jail, happened all over the state, really all over the country. And then the legislature, very left-leaning legislature looking at criminal justice reform, saw the reduced numbers and thought, you know what, we actually don't need all those beds. We shouldn't be treating kids that way, right? And in the abstract, that sounds true, that we don't want to think about locking kids up. But what we have today, as a result of that bad legislation, we have 215 total beds divided out amongst the entire state. So we go from 380 in 2019 to today, 215. At the same time, our population has exploded. So we've got more people in the state. We've got more kids living here. We've got juvenile crime going out of control. Any guess how many beds we have allocated to the Pikes Peak region? Take a guess, Chaim.
I don't know.
27 total beds. 27 total beds to the Pikes Peak region. So El Paso County is the biggest county in the state of Colorado. The 4th Judicial District is going to be the biggest judicial district in the state of Colorado, and we have only 27 beds. What that means is that when a kid commits a violent offense, they're put into custody and they're at capacity, so then another kid that was being held on a violent offense is pushed out the other side back into society back into their home life where they've got no support, enabling behaviors from parents potentially, and it just creates a revolving door. So because of that issue, we're seeing violent crime increasing from juveniles. We're seeing smash and grabs, which are through the roof this year, by the way. We had 7, I think, total all of last year. We've had over 35 this year, and we're not even all the way through the year. Those are mostly kids doing this, some as young as 11 and 12 years old, stealing cars and smashing into these businesses, affecting lawful business owners in a way that is completely wrong. And it was predictable and preventable. If we would have kept our bed cap space to what it was, rather than have a knee-jerk reaction, we would be better equipped as a criminal justice system to affect change in this realm. One thing that we do in the DA's office is I've got data-led prosecution efforts going on all the time. So we're always looking at these data points, figuring out where we need to allocate resources. So we used to have 3 prosecutors prosecuting juvenile crime. We're augmenting that up to 5 to address this rising juvenile crime, to be more effective on these types of cases and working closer with the judges to make sure we're getting positive sentences. By the way, on those smash and grabs, we're taking a zero tolerance policy on those, which means that we're seeking max sentences.
So, what happened to the beds?
They're gone.
They're not being funded?
They're not being funded. You know, in fact, you cannot go above 27 except for in extreme circumstances where you could borrow an emergency bed from another region, but it's really hard to do that.
And so does anybody have a solution to this?
Well, the DAs are pushing legislation this coming session to increase that bed cap number up to something more reasonable.
So it's been capped by whom?
By the state legislature and then signed into law by Governor Polis.
And what's the reasoning?
There's no reasoning. Just what I described to you a moment ago.
Just let people out. Well, I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak. When we come back with local district attorney Michael Allen, well, we're going to be talking about his first term and what he hopes to be his second term as our district attorney. You're listening to The Peak. We're so happy you are, and we'll be right back. Okay. This is only 2 minutes.
Yep.
So we'll practice a quick one.
And which one is this going to be on?
This is going on to segment 4 now.
So 2, 3, 4. Okay.
I'm going around the clock now. I got the voter guide out for the candidates, and then I decided I should do one for the ballot initiatives, but I couldn't figure out how to do it because we can't have an opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, so what do we do that's creative, that's worth it, that's more? So I wrangled for like months. I'm like, what are we gonna do? So we're finally putting that together. That'll be out tomorrow. We're putting the text of the ballot initiatives in there, and we're doing links to the opposing and supporting lobbyist organization. We're wanted to do something no one else is doing. But with the voter guide, we let the candidates give their opinion, but a ballot initiative can't comment on itself.
Right.
So I've been like, how do we do this? So, but I think we're doing something novel. I think it's going to bring something
Good.
to it, but we'll see.
Well, I was shocked that my opponent didn't fill out the voter guide.
He-
I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, he won't even respond to did he receive it?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the Dems. I'm actually going to do an article about why are these people not there. There was a. If you're listening at home, I'm going to talk about this. There was a formal boycott. The Dems. I found out. I got an email I wasn't supposed to.
Oh, did you?
That they got together. The Dems got together in 2022 on a Slack meeting and decided to boycott the guy. I ended up finding out that Rob Rogers was behind it from the vice chair.
Yeah.
And so I think they're not necessarily formally doing it again, but they're staying away.
God
It's like
forbid we have
it's like the
information, right?
Democratic presidential candidate.
Right.
Don't put your platform in front of the people. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. We say the quiet stuff out loud, and we would love you to help us say it even louder. Go on the peak.news, check out who we are, look at what we're doing, and see how you can get involved. If you don't like the fact that the media have basically become the false prophets of our society, they're the gatekeepers to the information, well, we can't have a free society when the media is operating like that. And so we decided to take it back, but we need your help. So if you want to be a reporter of the heavy stuff, the investigative stuff, or the light stuff, we need to report on it all. And we're putting together this Citizen Journalist Network. So go on thepeak.news and please join us. The more, the merrier. Well, this is election season, and so basically for the next couple weeks, every single show is going to have something to do with the elections. And we have on our program today Michael Allen, who is our first-term DA, also candidate right now, looking for his second term as our district attorney. And during this segment, we're going to be talking about how he evaluates his first term and also why he thinks you should re-elect him if you're here in the constituency. But first, Michael, give us some information about your background. How did you, obviously you're a lawyer, but how did you get into this and then decide that, you know, practicing law in this way as an elected public servant was the way to go?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a Colorado native and served in the United States Navy. That's part of my background. Public service is deep in my veins at this point.
Navy's big in Colorado. We have a big
Huge.
Navy here.
Yeah, right out here at Memorial Lake, right? So, you know, going through the Navy and being in public service and then going to law school, a elected DA came and talked to one of my classes, and I've been in prosecution ever since, and that's been 20 years ago now when I started in prosecution. So it's really gets into your blood, serving the community, working with victims who oftentimes either won't or can't stand up for themselves in court, and achieving justice for them and the community. It's an important job. It's a way that I can give back to the community that I live in, that we've raised our kids in, and to have a tangible impact on public safety. It's a job like no other that I've ever had.
You know, how is it, there's obviously pressure when you're a prosecutor to get the prosecutions, but, you know, how do you keep that balanced with, you know, I shouldn't prosecute this case, or
Sure.
this person shouldn't, when there's all that
Yeah.
pressure, especially when you're going to run again.
Yeah.
People want to see the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance that?
Well, I think the most important aspect of being a district attorney or a prosecutor generally is that you have got to follow the law. That's first and foremost. If you start to be picking and choosing which laws you're going to follow, how you're going to follow those laws, then you're going to start having, you know, a very activist DA like we've seen in Atlanta, Georgia, or up in New York City, right? Nobody in this community wants that, and it's bad for the judiciary and the executive branch. So you've got to follow the law, and then you've got to follow the facts of a case. You could have a very strong belief that somebody did something wrong, but if you don't have the evidence, then you cannot ethically prosecute that case. So as long as you adhere to those two ideas, that you are following the law and following the evidence, you're going to be doing things right for the community and victims.
Yeah, I think people need to understand, like people are asking now about the judges, you know, and we don't, in our voter guide, church voter guides, we don't do that. There's another voter guide out there where they actually ask the lawyers, right? Because the judicial is really about procedure. It's not, you know, you might not like the verdict, but you want judges that are following procedures, not the verdicts that they might, you know, might happen in their courtroom. So during, you were assistant DA?
I was a deputy DA for a long time.
Deputy DA.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so you've been through now almost 4 years, your first term. What's been the biggest challenge or challenges of these first 4 years as the head?
We need a half hour just to talk about those. I would say, you know, we haven't had a health pandemic like we did with COVID in 100 years, right? If you go back to the Spanish flu, essentially. So that had a very big impact on all aspects of society, and the criminal justice system was not immune to that. Courts closed down for big periods of time because they were afraid of disease spread and that kind of thing. We also had at the same time a very strong anti-law enforcement movement. In fact, our vice president currently was a part of that movement, right? She established a bond collection system where she was collecting money from people to bond rioters out of jail across the country. That had an impact on the criminal justice system. We've had, for many years now, bad legislation from a very left-leaning legislature and governor's office being enacted into law in Colorado. And then we've also had, at the same time, rising crime. So all of those things, I think, coupled together, made this first 4-year term of my tenure as DA challenging. But I'll tell you what, I am really proud of the response that my office had in response to all of these challenges. We've done things that no other office in the state of Colorado has done. We've held evildoers accountable like no other office in the state of Colorado. And really that's what it gets down, you know, to the brass tacks is are you doing the job despite these challenges? And we've been doing that job like nobody else.
Okay. Well, you started to go into the campaigning a little bit here.
I
But I
did.
said, you're running for office, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
pure campaigning since you're here.
Yeah.
Why should the electorate re-elect you as DA for a second term? do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, I mean, I kind of hit on it there. This job is not a entry-level position as the elected district attorney. It's a big office. We've got 92 attorneys, 257 total employees. We lead the state in all kinds of different metrics. You can't expect to pluck somebody off the street with no prosecution experience, put them in as DA, and expect good things to happen in the community. That's just not reality. So the reason why voters should take a hard look at re-electing me is experience matters. I've got 20 years of experience. I've prosecuted every level of case. In fact, I've never lost a homicide prosecution that I've led. And as with me as the elected DA, we've set metrics in the office that have never been matched in the state of Colorado. Last year, we did 475 total trials, which blows away any prior record in the state for trials in any given year. That's how we engage with the public, is holding jury trials.
During your term, we had the Club Q
Yeah.
shooter, and I know that was, in some ways a crisis because he had been, you had, seen him before and
Yeah.
hadn't gone after him and everything.
Well, we had gone after him, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So we prosecuted him all the way up to the point where the judge actually dismissed the case.
okay.
Yeah, so, there are constitutional protections in place for every defendant. If
As
wit-
there should be.
As there should be, absolutely. If witnesses refuse to come into court and testify against somebody, the court has no option except to dismiss the case, and that's what happened with the prior case. The laws, though, changed that, didn't allow us to even talk about that. And that's thanks to the criminal justice reform-minded legislation. Once we were able to get that information out to the public, people realized, hey, actually the DA's office did prosecute him. It was just a matter of constitutional protections required the judge to dismiss. And then when we got a hold of him on the Club Q shooting, we got the biggest sentence ever achieved in the 4th Judicial District. So,
Obviously there was a lot of different narratives going
Yeah.
on with the whole gay and transgender and all of this, and how is society treating it, and who is the shooter. How do you feel overall that your office handled it, and you're
Yeah.
certainly happy with the verdict, but
Yeah.
how do you feel overall going through that experience for you? Because that was major PR. I mean, it was a national story.
it was an international
It's
story.
an international
Yeah.
story, yeah.
The thing that I'm proud of about that particular case is that when I look at victims, I don't ever ask them, and I don't frankly care what their station in life is. I don't care if they're a minority, a white male, white female, gay, lesbian, straight, trans, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to give them the same exact service that they deserve under the law. And that's an important thing. In fact, I think it's a Christian thing to give them the same fairness and treatment and dignity and respect that they deserve as a human being. All the other narrative that goes along with that, the LGBTQ plus issues that are percolating in social media and whatnot, don't affect us as prosecutors, and they shouldn't. I'm going to treat them with the same dignity and respect they deserve as a human being.
Okay. Well, you just got a couple minutes left. I want to go looking forward where our state is going.
Yeah.
We have this gang issue that's a national story.
Yeah.
Just overall lawlessness in society. As the person who is privy to the darkest, underbelly of, as they say, of our society, where do you see our region and our state
Yeah.
going?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion that you just mentioned, the gang issue, the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. There's been people that have said, they're not here. There's been people that have said they are here. Well, I can tell you they are here. They are here and they're committing crimes, including some serious
In El Paso
crimes.
County.
Absolutely, in El Paso County. So if there's any myths out there about that, I hope to dispel them by saying that they are absolutely here. They're operating here, and that's really a result of our porous border. It's a national emergency in my mind, what's happening at the southern border. Governor Polis has stated he wants to be one of the 10 safest states in the country. We're nowhere close to that, and crime is actually on the increase, not the decrease. So if he wants that, he needs to get serious about pushing good legislation that will help us protect public safety.
And what do you think that would be? What would be the thing that would most impact having a safer society here?
Well, there's been so much reform over the last several years, it's not just one thing.
Right.
It would be starting to unravel a lot of these bad laws that have been passed. allowing people to be held in prison when they're convicted for longer periods of time would be a good one. And we're gonna talk about one of those ballot initiatives that will do just that.
So, where things are going in the state, it would just seem lawlessness, the legislation, they're making it harder for law enforcement. I know you want to be optimistic, but let's be real and say the quiet stuff out loud. Where do you think we're looking at if we continue in this trend where it doesn't seem to be tough on crime at all?
Yeah, well, we're gonna continue to see crime on the increase. We're gonna continue to see more victimization of Colorado citizens. And that's wrong in my mind.
Okay, folks, elections do matter, and I know that you know that. And if you're paying, I know it's a lot to pay attention. I can't even, and I'm supposed to be paying attention to it of what's going on. But we do have an election right now, and you do get to decide who we are sending up to Denver as well as to Washington. And so put that into account. Look at people's records, do the research. And part of that ecosystem is voter guides. Check out churchvoterguides.org. Check out truthandliberty.net. There's lots of voter guides. There's lots of information, but you need to educate yourself and vote your values because we're all in this together here. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We'll be right back with Michael Allen talking about some more ballot initiatives. Good second. Okay, so this has to be rapid fire because we have, let me find,
Bang, bang,
what's
bang.
my timing? Okay, so 5:05, 5:10, what? I can't, 5:05, 5:10, I'm talking. So he's long, it's longer than normal, okay, 4:55, okay, so.
You tell me I'm long-winded?
What?
I'm long-winded?
No,
is that what
it's
you're
just,
telling me?
no, it's just, we have 4 minutes to go through 3 ballot initiatives,
Okay,
so
that'll
it's
be
gonna
quick.
be, I mean, I have to intro and I have to outro
128,
Jim.
130 and KK.
Yeah, so I'll just read the headline, I'll read the title,
I'll say,
and you'll go for it?
yep.
Okay, so we'll start with 128. We have 2 more minutes. 128, 130. What's so funny is defunding the police, now we're funding police. So the conspiracy theory on this one is why supposedly the death benefit
Uh-huh.
is like 10x than you get in the
For
military.
surviving spouse, yeah.
Yeah, so people are thinking, what are the police going to be? Are they going to be collecting guns? Like, why such a high death payoff?
Oh.
And are the police going to be asked to do much more dangerous jobs against citizens? Is that
Oh, yeah.
setting up for like mercenary
Yeah.
kind of? Well, I'm just, we don't trust any of this. I mean, considering who's writing the stuff and what they're pushing, we think
We should look at who's
everything's a Trojan horse.
You should look at who's writing these initiatives though too. The group that's writing 128, 130, they're a trusted group in my mind. So
Okay.
if it's somebody that you trust and they're coming at it from the right perspective, I think you can feel better about it.
Okay.
If you don't look at who's behind it, then of course you can go down
Okay.
down the road of putting your tinfoil hat
Well,
back.
we are putting that into this,
Yeah.
into the guide we're coming out as who were the co-proponents and
Yeah.
who are the groups that are lobbying for and against.
Yeah,
We're
I think
putting-
that's important.
We're putting that in, and a link to Ballotpedia so people can
Yeah.
do more, so. No, unfortunately, I mean, a lot of this is just, there's so much distrust, because you're constantly being, look over here, and meanwhile, it's,
Yeah.
so. And they are written complicated, I mean, they really.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in 10.
I recognize his voice.
Welcome back to the Peak News. We're finishing up our program with Michael Allen, local district attorney, and in this final segment, before we get to Jim Miller and the Peak Rants, we're going to do a little like speed dating on a couple more ballot initiatives that Michael wanted to cover. So, ready, Michael?
All right.
Okay, here we go. Speed round. Proposition 128, parole eligibility for crimes of violence, going up from 75% to 85%? Yes?
Yes, so this is basically a truth in sentencing initiative. Currently, if somebody's sentenced to a 16-year sentence, they're gonna serve about 7 years before they're parole eligible. That is not truth in sentencing. If somebody hears, hey, this person got 16 years and then they're out in 7, you can imagine that can make people mad. So this would just increase the time spent in prison for very serious offenses. Second-degree murder, kidnapping, assault in the first degree. These are the high cases that are just below first-degree murder. And they should be serving more time in custody as opposed to less.
So it would be 85% of
Exactly.
the sentence
Exactly.
before they could be eligible for parole.
And not being eligible to receive good time and earned time credit.
Okay, so that goes away also. Now it's 75% and possibly less, and now it would be 85%
It's-
or more.
Currently, it's 75% and definitely less. It's
Definitely
about
less.
48% of the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so why, I mean, and if people even get sentenced, right?
Right.
Okay, so, Proposition 130, funding for law enforcement.
Yeah, so like Proposition 128, I'm in favor of Prop 130. It just provides training and recruiting money for law enforcement. We've seen a huge attack on law enforcement over the last several years, especially in 2019, 2020, and 21. And this would reverse some of those measures. It would also provide money to family members of law enforcement officers who are killed in the line of duty. I think this is a good measure. It reverses some of the bad stuff that's happened to law enforcement legislatively over the last several years.
Okay, and KK, which is firearms and ammunition excise tax. This is another 6.5% put on guns, gun parts, and ammunition in order to pay for mental health services and things like that. I'm getting that correct?
I think it goes,
Yeah.
I think it's trying to target it going towards victim groups.
Okay, we'll comment on it and I'll
Yeah.
get specific. I'm flipping through the blue book.
So basically, it just adds a tax on top of all the things that you just mentioned. I'm against this one. I think it's really a backdoor attack on the Second Amendment.
I agree. I mean, this is how
We agree with-
this is how they got rid of cigarettes, right? It's like
Yeah.
tax them, make things too expensive.
You
And
took
of
your
course-
tinfoil hat off
And
on
of,
this
course,
one.
and of course, taxes always, no, it's still on. That's why I'm doing it. Let's see, revenue will go, crime victim services,
Right.
mental health services. I got that for veterans and youth and school safety programs. Does the money actually get to,
Well,
that's
that's the thing.
always the concern. Does the money, why do we have this more road tax? Like,
Right.
don't we have, and there's still potholes,
Right.
right?
If you look at any sin tax, anytime that they create, like legalize marijuana and, hey, we'll send all the money to the schools, well, guess what? Newsflash, the money doesn't end up at the schools. Right? It's just a way to sell it. It's a packaging mechanism.
Right, and people in the state don't like the taxes. So we have a minute left, so let's get into the local Colorado Springs 2D
Yeah.
and 300. 2D would prohibit recreational marijuana sales within city limits, and 300 would allow medical establishments, marijuana, to flip over to recreational when they have their license. What's your take on this? And these abutting
Yeah.
propositions.
So I'm in favor of 2D. I don't live in the city, but obviously my office serves the city. Today's marijuana is not the same marijuana that existed in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It's much more powerful. The THC levels are much higher. It's has led to increases in mental health issues, including schizophrenia. Youth are using it at a higher rate than they were before, despite studies that show otherwise. So I'm for 2D and I'm against 300. So yes on 2D and no on 300.
What would you say to someone real quick like Jim Miller, who says, we already have the problems, we might as well have the tax money and the convenience, we're already getting the problems?
Yeah, I've already said it. The tax money doesn't end up where they say it's going to end up.
And will the problems move into the city? Will we have more
Absolutely.
problems just because they can buy it in Manitou? It'll make it more of a local issue in the city.
Absolutely.
Okay. Michael Allen, thank you so much for being on the Peak News.
Thank you.
And continue with your campaign. Now, Jim Miller in the Peak Rants, ranting about Michael Allen. Well, let's see.
Pretty decent district attorney. He's against a lot of the bad things.
All right.
The crime.
This was one he did before, and I told him to do a new one, and he said this one will work, so they should have listened to that, because that's dated.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense. The guys need to listen to these things. That didn't make any sense.
Michael Allen. Could use some more of my support in the community.
We'll trim that for the podcast.
Probably use our vote, at least I think with him to be better than our other option. So I'm just saying that I hope Michael Allen continues to do a good job. I hope he gets reelected. He seems like he's a much better option than the latter. But with all that, I hope he keeps up the fight. He keeps the youth cultivated, safe, and protected. Hopefully in this next round and everything, we'll get some of the sexual predators further away from the schools, the parks, further away from the daycares and the churches. I hope he takes a good swing at that too for us. I'm Jim Miller. Just a guy. And you're listening
No, not one of his better rants.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was okay. Sometimes he's been doing like, he's getting better and better and better.
Yeah. I like it.
But that one was dated. They should have listened to that. I should have been more on top of that when he told me. Said he did it recently, but I think it was back from like the primaries. Okay. So I did not give your website, so I'll do that in the close.
Okay. Oh, I thought we were all the way
And,
done.
what?
I thought we were all the way done already.
No, oh, I have a show close.
Okay.
You know, I preview tomorrow and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You're done. I say goodbye to you already, so. But, so we're doing, we launched a nonprofit
Oh, good.
educational foundation called the Peak News Educational
Oh,
Foundation
good.
to do journalistic ethics and media vocational programming, training in the schools to plug them into an internship
Oh, good.
here. So we're going after Daniels Fund money and other educational
Good.
grants to try to get to the youth before they're, become advocates, teach
Yeah.
them what it really means to
That's
be
awesome.
a journalist. So, and then plug them into internships
Yeah.
here and other places. James, who's running the board, after 6 months with us, he got offered a job with Salem. So
Oh, really?
So he now works here at 20.
Good.
He got a job here
Good.
with an internship.
What does that
that's
kind
cool.
of job pay?
I'm not sure what he's getting.
Oh.
Probably, somewhere in the 20 or something
Yeah.
like that, entry
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
But I mean, to get a job in broadcast
Oh, yeah.
at the age of 20, he's not, he's a high school graduate,
Yeah.
works his butt off, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. You know Rick Fiddler, Mary Louise
I
and
don't
Rick
think so.
Fiddler? She ran for school board. He was part of the, it's their son.
Okay. Good.
So yeah, real good family. That's also too, when you have interns where the parents, they show up, they do a good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have interns that flake out. Do you do internships down
We
there?
do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you get them from high schools or?
High schools, we get them from UCCS, we get them from law schools, yeah, all over the place.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, in the media, there's not as many internships as
Yeah.
there used to be, so
Yeah.
I wanted to provide that, so.
Through our internship program, we now have lawyers in the office from 33 of the 50 states, which is
Wow.
amazing.
Well, a lot of people from Colorado. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Got 30 more. Got 30 more seconds. Well, is that because there's just people moving to Colorado Springs from everywhere, right? I mean, this is like an international city, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. Thank you for joining us for the Peak News. It's election season, folks. Your ballot should definitely be in your mailbox. Get it out, open it up. I'm telling you, do not wait. I researched this stuff. I put out a voter guide, and my head is spinning on this stuff, but you can't check out. You actually got to check in. I mean, you think that the elections don't count? I think there's a lot of election fraud, and I do a voter guide, okay? I'm crazy. We got to do what we got to do. We got to stay in the fight. So go to churchvoterguides.org. We're going to be also putting out by tomorrow one on the ballot initiatives in a unique way, because we can't give an opinion. So how do you do ballot initiatives on opinion? Well, well, you'll let us know if we did a good job. Also, truthandliberty.net. There's a lot of people in the newspapers. Everybody's putting out a voter guide. So there's no reason to say, I don't know. I don't know what the candidates think. I'm not educated enough. You can't do that, because here's the deal. If you don't vote, you're giving your vote to someone else, and they probably do not share your values. Well, thank you for joining us on The Peak, and thank you to our sponsors. Please patronize them to thank them for providing you with this service, and especially Springs Dentist, Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. We air Monday through Thursday, so we'll be back tomorrow. We have Jeff Crank, CD5 candidate. We'll be talking about his congressional candidacy. Big issues in the region and also the country. And, he has a media background too, so he'll be commenting on that. And next week, we have Scott Bottoms and Jeff Livingston, the candidates, Republican and Democrat, for HD 15, and we'll be having a civil discussion on that. Coming up next, the Larry Elder Show, and check out thepeak.news for our podcast. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and in 2.0, we're saying it even louder for such a time as this. Shalom. My virtual chauffeur. Where's my timing? That's weird. When did I zero my counter? It's like an extra 30 seconds. Oh, yes. That's what threw me off. I zeroed it when I thought we were coming back, and then we had a 30-second commercial. I'm so... Like, I did a pre-recorded show the other day, and I had no idea where I was in the show, because we were skipping the commercials, and realized how much doing this I just get in a pattern. So, let me turn this off. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for your time. I hope that was good. I'll let you know when the podcast is up.
Okay,
And
good deal.
cool. So do you feel this campaign is any challenge, or is it
It's always a
solid?
challenge. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are you doing debates? Are you doing any?
We got one on Saturday.
You do?
Yeah.
Where?
League of Women Voters is putting it on.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's a friendly organization.
yeah, you should show up and wear your tinfoil hat to that one.
Sometimes we get it right. It's good to be skeptical.
Oh, of course.
In my try to. They like on this the right to education. School choice one. Carolyn Martin, you heard her that she's suspected it's giving the rights to the children, not the parents, and that might get exploited. So unfortunately, with the way everything's weaponized, it's hard to, it's hard to know what people are really saying and what they're really up to. But then it's all part of the thing to try to get people to just be so overwhelmed and check out. And people are just in a fog.
Gotta pay attention.
I can't even believe, even at the road, when I see those guys in the room, like, getting them to do anything, or whatever, like, everybody, when this George Barna information came out about 50% of Christians planning not to vote, I was like, well, there's the data to back up what I've been feeling. And he blames the pastors for not, engaging on these subjects. They won't talk on subjects. But, but people need to grow up. I mean, we gotta
People
be
have
the
to take
ownership, but they're not. Everybody, and even with Trump, everybody just wants to say, they want a savior. I mean, they don't want the savior. But they want somebody to do it for them.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that interesting?